Good Lord. No speech. Oh dear. Oh dear. Let me tell you, sir, fat shaming works. Of course it works. I mean, who would ever imagine that fat shaming wouldn't work? Like somebody you love, so do I look hot in this? No, not anymore. You'd stop eating. And in fact, all the studies suggest. All right, sweetheart. Criminologist Dr. Richard Johnson from the University of Toledo. You want some facts? Here are some. Based on the 2012 numbers, it would take 40 years worth of blacks killed by police to equal the total number of blacks murdered by police in a single year. 900 people have been killed by cops in 2016. 47% were white males. Only 24% were black males. Black men are not killed out of proportion, especially considering that they're much more likely to interact with cops. People are killed by police about as often as they're killed by lightning. There are no protests about storms. Black males are 58% of those killed legally by private citizens in self-defense. You might think that's an aha moment about racist whites, but 75% of those were killed by other blacks. FBI statistics on murder lay bare the real threats to black lives in America. Black men are about 6.5% of the US population, but they commit 52% of all murders over a 30-year period, which has dipped to about 40% in recent years, but still horribly and vastly disproportionate. Black men overwhelmingly murder other black people. Whites overwhelmingly murder other whites. That's not the narrative from Black Lives Matter. Looking at overall violent crime, blacks are 27 times more likely to attack whites than vice versa, and 8 times more likely to attack Hispanics. That's a shocking number I hope you take away from my visit. 90% of blacks that die from murder die at the hands of other black people. Is that enough facts for you?
So that 94% of UK universities have censored free speech in the past year. Some have no platform, people like Germaine Greer, Roger Scruton, and a human rights activist called Miriam Namazi. Are you happy with that?
I don't believe it's censorship. I believe that freedom of speech is also freedom to accept the consequences of that speech. And if that means that certain institutions don't want to promote or give you a platform to say these things, then you have to accept that.
Really?
Yes, I do.
That's not curtailing freedom of speech.
No, I don't think it is.
Well,
people like Germaine Greer.
But you've just taken away the freedom of these people to speak at the university.
They can speak wherever they like, but freedom of speech is not freedom to be invited wherever you want.
What's the point of a university if you don't allow a variety of views to be expressed?
A variety of views, that's absolutely fine.
Well, clearly not if you're Germaine Greer.
I think if students are being asked to pay increasingly higher fees, and I think that if they object to people like Germaine Greer, Julie Bindel, Milo Yiannopoulos being given frequently pretty hefty speaking fees themselves and be given a platform at their university, then I think they have a right.
Julie Bindel doesn't take fees for that. Julie Bindel does not take fees, and she has worked for 30 years raising awareness of violence against women and done so, you know, thanklessly. And for her to be barred from universities simply because she has a different view to you or some of the people in that university about transgender issues is a disgrace, as it is with Peter Tatchell.
I think...
Hold on, to
say that they're getting money for it, it's absolutely legal.
Kate Welsh.
I think Julie Bindel has done some fantastic things for women's issues. I will not decry that. I do believe that she has frequently incited hatred against transgender people, and that puts...
But she hasn't. She's defended transgendered people. I've heard her do it. She's done it to me. I've spoken to her about it. She's defended transgender people where all she does is cleave to the notion, which is actually a scientific fact, whether you like it or not, which is that someone who has transitioned from a man to a woman is still technically, essentially, if you wish to call it, essentially a man.
The issue is not what is right or wrong. The issue is, shouldn't you be able to hear the views on both sides of the argument? And you can't if you ban people. I mean, the Lincoln University, a student union, it banned the University Conservative Association from social media because the association had pointed out that the university had a low ranking when it came to free speech. I mean, this is getting ridiculous.
I don't think that's on the same par as criticising who's being invited to speak at universities, or to say that a democratically elected student union preferring not to sell papers like the Daily Mail.
But why would you do it at all?
Why are you scared?
I'm not remotely scared.
Well, I know, but isn't a university exactly the place where there should be this cross-fertilisation of ideas, of political opinions, a breadth of informed opinion, of contentious opinion, of things which you might find difficult to accept, and things which I might find difficult to accept? That's what we should have at universities. Surely that's the point of it.
But freedom of speech and freedom of expression for minority groups has traditionally been oppressed or made difficult to access by people who criticise their ability to exist, like Julie Bindel with trans people,
She doesn't criticise their ability to exist.
No, we've been around that.
We've been around that.
Yeah. The principal at issue here is not the rights or the wrongs of any of these issues. It is that the university, if you're lucky enough to get to one, is one of the few times in your life when you can go along and hear every view under the sun. But in fact, what is happening now is that views are being channeled into a very narrow tunnel. And if you're outside of that with your views, you don't get in.
I think it's a very exciting time to be a student right now. I graduated 10 years ago. We didn't, the progressive movement that's flowering now was really only in bud then. But I think students are turning around and saying no to bigotry and no to hate speech.
Well, they can go along to meetings and say that.
It's only a minority who are doing that. It's the minority in the students' unions who are doing that. And I speak as someone with a kid who's at university who says, actually, all this rubbish, this idiocy, this politically correct nonsense has no purchase whatsoever amongst a wider student body. It has a purchase only amongst the perennially active, amongst the political groups within there. And don't forget as well,
generally
Andrew,
people from oppressed groups. Please remember that.
Universities
have always been a safe space for straight white men. What we're seeing now is an increase of levelling the playing field for other voices to be heard, and that will mean removing the platform from one person and giving it to somebody else.
City University,
a gay woman, you remove it from a gay woman.
City University in London, which runs a well-known journalism course, voted to ban the Daily Mail, the Sun and the Express. What's the point of that? Nobody, you don't have to read these papers. Why would you ban them?
When you're on a journalism course, it's fabulous.
Daily Mail and journalism don't always go hand in hand.
No, that's your view. That's just your view. That doesn't give you the right to vote for banning them.
Their students from buying it anywhere else. They're saying in this specific
campus, where people are studying journalism. I mean, if you don't like Daily Mail journalism, I perfectly understand that. Journalists should know what, in your view, is bad journalism.
It's a commercial boycott. It's perfectly acceptable.
You have to remember as well, Andrew, that it's not just the students. There was the Adam Smith Institute report recently, which suggested that I think it was 85% of university lecturers tended to the left, were liberals, tended to the left.
Sure, but that's always been the case.
That's
regularly
always been the case.
Pretty much.
Back in the 60s, they did this comparison. It was something like 60%. So it's still a majority, but nothing like the hegemony within those universities now is all from this sort of left, liberal, censorious, intolerant and authoritarian.
Because 40 FBI agents went to Ferguson to investigate this case at the behest of Eric Holder, who showed up almost immediately after it happened. I think it's fair to assume that they really believed that they were going to be able to indict Officer Wilson, that he had acted wrongly.
No, I don't think that that's, that's absolutely not true. Not true. Don't just say that.
No, you're just saying plenty of things. So let me just,
throw one thing out.
The FBI agents went down there. Eric Holder went down there.
To indict Darren Wilson? Darren Wilson? No way. You know how the system works. These cops get off every single time. Bob McCullough has been the prosecutor for over 2 decades. And for 23 years... Excuse me. Let me just finish this. For 23 years, according to the Washington Post, there has not been a prosecution of a single police shooting in St. Louis County.
So you believe...
Hold on. Every single one of them, none of them are indictable?
It's my turn. You're suggesting that 40 FBI agents were all
in cahoots. I'm suggesting the Department of Justice failed.
That this person was not indicted. Listen to me.
They failed.
So it's not possible in your brain that what happened there was what was found by both a grand jury and 40 FBI agents. You're discounting. You're saying all of that doesn't matter. Their investigation is absolutely not true.
When the facts of this case come out, when the facts of this case, excuse me, miss, can I speak now? When the facts of this case come out in my film, Stranger Fruit, the real facts of this case, the facts of this case that Bob McCullough doesn't want us talking about, like the fact that Michael Brown was shot in the head and a bullet came out of his eye. Do you know how that would happen? When your head is down and there's a bullet in the ground. In their report, there's a bullet in the ground by Michael Brown's head. Now, how would a bullet go through here, out of his eye, and then get stuck in the ground?
What I know is that there were 3 different forensic investigations that were done that showed that he was shot in the front.
They failed him.
Everyone in the country was told this narrative that he was shot in the back.
You know how many black men? You know how many black men are in jail right now? You know how many black men are in jail right now for nothing? For nothing? Because the Department of Justice failed them? You know how many black men are in jail right now? Don't tell me because they closed the book on it. We're okay. My film will show the public the truth, ma'am. And if you want to know the truth, you should watch it.